morning. Welcome to Still Up with 6, where the conversation continues. Of course, we've been talking everything coronavirus, keeping you guys informed and up to date. Of course, and we are still practicing our social distancing. Chris Rogers is joining us to continue the conversation from the comfort of his home. Hey there, Chris.
Hey there, Heidi. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the latest numbers here. I know that so many of you have questions, and I think this is a really good forum to answer a lot of those questions. We've been getting so many good questions from you guys, and we can answer them kind of in real time here. I think it's a helpful way to communicate the things that are going on right now, a lot of uncertainty right now. So let's get them up to speed right now on the latest numbers as we do every morning.
So the latest numbers of coronavirus cases here in Central Texas as of this morning. McLennan County has 23 cases. Bell County has 18. Brazos up to 16 now. Milam County has 2. Limestone, Falls, and Robertson counties all have 1 case each.
I think a lot of questions have come in surrounding the shelter-in-place orders that we're seeing pop up in numerous counties across the state. What is and is not being considered essential right now? We do want to remind you that the essentials are listed on our website right now, KCENTV.com. Good morning to you, Marty. Also, breaking overnight. This is of big interest to so many of you at home, who certainly you who are out of work. Senate leaders and the White House have reached a deal on a massive $2 trillion economic relief package. This will mean checks will be in the mail once President Trump signs off on this, which officials say is, of course, expected probably as soon as today. So finally, a deal has been made on Capitol Hill. You will be getting checks. Checks will be going to millions of Americans across the country who so desperately need it right now, Heidi.
Yeah, and it also includes, other than the checks, it includes 4 months of extended unemployment insurance, aid for hospitals and our health systems, small business loans, and, of course, disaster relief for state and local governments. So this is huge news. This was something we've been waiting on. Now, when it comes to how much the checks will be, that will be determined later on as this moves through the president's office. We're going to have to wait and see, but he is expected to sign that later today.
Yeah, there's been talk, Heidi, of the amount based on family size, possibly based on income, possibly based on some of those types of different factors that would play in. But certainly $2 trillion is a significant amount of money. It's good to see that finally Democrats and Republicans came together. So many Americans out there are hurting right now. As we find out new details about how this money will be distributed, when it will be distributed, and how much it will be, we'll keep you informed. We're going to be having to keep our eye on that today.
Yeah, this is huge news. Also breaking overnight while you were asleep, the Royal Palace has confirmed that Prince Charles has tested positive for the coronavirus. Of course, he is first in line for the throne. We don't have many details at this time, but he is showing mild symptoms. So Prince Charles, breaking overnight, has tested positive for the coronavirus.
Yeah, certainly a big concern for people in the royal family, as he is older, of course, but good to hear that he's only showing mild symptoms right now. Hopefully he's getting the treatment he needs. There's been so many questions coming in about people and their working. I think that's something we should talk about this morning, Heidi. If we have the list, I'll pull it up right now, of the essential jobs to remind people what is and is not open and what is and is not being considered essential, because I've gotten certainly a number of different people have reached out to me asking about this. Yeah,
there's so many. I believe we might have the graphic for you guys, but I can start naming some of the essential jobs and places. Hospitals, pharmacies, veterinary care for your pets, dentists, mental health providers, clinics, grocery stores, and food banks. Now, convenience and liquor stores are also open. Did you get that list in front of you, Chris, if you want to continue to update people on what else is essential?
I'm grabbing it right now. I know it's on KCENTV.com. There's so much information to go through, but we've got a full list there, and that's where you can figure out. Here, I've got it pulled up right now. Here's what is and is not open right now in Bell and McLennan counties. We've got pharmaceutical companies. You mentioned grocery stores and supermarkets. Convenience stores, liquor stores are open. Media is open. Of course, we here at 6 News still need to provide you with the things you need to know. Gas stations, auto dealerships, and auto shops. I know that was a big question, Heidi. We got yesterday a couple times on Still Up with 6 if auto dealerships and auto shops are still open. Those are being considered essential right now. So that is, and there's so much more that is being considered essential. But KCENTV.com is the place to go if you want the full list there.
And it's on your screen right now. We've got some of the places Chris and I just listed off. Even moving supply places are open, as well as hotels and motels. Those are still open. So I know that was a big question a lot of you guys had yesterday, but drop in the comments section right now. Let us know if you guys have any questions this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on Verify because it was an important one this morning. We showed a graph that was kind of making the rounds right now on social media. And the graph circulating said that we could reach a point of no return. It has a lot of people scared. Essentially, the idea is if we do nothing, then the number of patients will exceed the number of hospital beds. I want to give a little context to that graph because what it is the worst case scenario. It's essentially if we do absolutely nothing, do not do social distancing, do not do shelter-in-place orders, that would be the case. But it's not taking into consideration some of the action that's already being taken at a state and local level with these shelter-in-place orders. So that will make those numbers go down, and hopefully we can flatten that curve before that becomes the case. So that's kind of a worst-case scenario. It is based on real data, but it's most likely not going to reach that point if we continue to do the things that we're doing right now.
Yeah, looking at that graph and seeing the numbers and just the numbers on it, you think to yourself how alarming it is and how it can really make people feel scared when they see it without having the context behind it.
Absolutely. And let's get to some comments here. Stephanie's saying pet supplies are still being considered essential as well. That's a good point. Pet supplies as well as veterinary care. Of course, our pets are just as important as us. Good morning to you, Elsa. So that's another one. I didn't want to list every single thing and sit here and bore you, but we do have the article posted now in our comments section.
And are the schools still giving out free breakfast and lunch? I believe, yes, that they are. We have not heard any update on that being canceled. Chris, can you confirm that as well?
Yeah, so that is being considered an essential service, so that will remain open. Of course, some of these lunch services, these breakfast services are the meals that these kids rely on. That will be considered essential throughout this. Anything that's food related, you can count on to continue to stay open.
Let's see. Jenny is asking about price gouging toilet paper on Amazon. Why is Amazon getting away with it? $3 to $5 per roll. I actually saw an article earlier this morning that said Amazon has actually removed over 3,000 items that are being price gouged right now. So I'm not too sure if they are still doing this, but it is illegal.
Yeah, Heidi, I want to kind of jump on that a little bit. I can give you some explanation, Ginny. It's a good question. And a lot of people are blaming Amazon, but you have to remember there are independent sellers, third-party sellers that use Amazon as a platform, and they are the ones doing the price gouging. Amazon is trying to shut them down, as many as are popping up. But of course, we know there are bad people that take advantage of bad situations. But yeah, I think more than 3,000 sellers were completely shut down on Amazon. So they're trying to keep up with the third-party sellers that are using Amazon as a platform to price gouge. But as for Amazon, the company itself, they're not actually responsible for those heightened prices. That's
a good point there to remember that. Jenny says, what about traveling by car to another state? I think it's encouraged if you are in a county that is in shelter-in-place orders to stay home unless it's absolutely necessary that you travel. Of course, emergencies do happen, but if you're just planning a trip and are traveling to another state, it's best to just stay home at this time.
Yeah, certainly, experts advise that you should stay home as much as you can. If there are outstanding circumstances in which you completely have to travel to another state, then that would be allowed. You're not going to be stopped at the state borders per se, but if you can stay home, you absolutely should.
Let's see.
Emily is asking if lawn service is an essential. I'm not sure if it is. I think that possibly landscaping services might be considered essential, but I would imagine that if you're just trying to have someone come in and mow your lawn, that unless of course you're elderly and you can't do it yourself, possibly then that would be considered essential. I think that would be a case-by-case basis.
We're getting a comment here from Lisa. Do we have to pay back the stimulus with our taxes next year? That is a great question, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa, right now the ins and outs of this
package remain to be seen. Our hope is, of course, that you wouldn't have to pay it back. This is meant to boost the economy. It's meant to give a jump start to the economy, so hopefully you wouldn't have to then pay that back again. It would kind of go into the face of what's going on here. It's possible, though, that once the economy comes back on its feet, then that would be paid out through taxes eventually, but the details of this plan remain to be seen. Cynthia saying, should parents who share custody of children allow their children to go with the other parent, or safer to keep them in one home? Right now, I would say, Cynthia, as painful as it might be for one set of parents, it is probably safer to keep them in one home, in one place. The less traveling you can do, the better. I know that that's going to be difficult for a difficult decision for parents, but I would say, yeah, certainly it is safer for them to stay in one home.
Kelly says lawn service is essential, and Bridget weighing in as well says, I've seen lawn services in our neighborhood. So there you go for the person who asked about lawn services.
Critical trades such as plumbers, electricians, exterminators, pool cleaners, and other service that maintain safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residents. Yeah, absolutely. That's a thank you, Michael, for jumping in there as we try to keep up with the comments here. But yeah, that is absolutely accurate.
Ryan's asking how many counties or cities in Texas are in shelter-in-place order. Info might not be available. Well, we can tell you the major cities, Dallas, Austin, and Houston, are all in shelter-in-place. But here locally, it's McLennan County, Bell County, and more recently, we've actually seen, as of yesterday, some other shelters in place for the city of Lampasas, as well as in Milam County as well.
Yeah, and you're going to see this happening as more and more begin to shut down. Now, you'll remember the press conference with Governor Abbott where he explained there are so many counties that do not have cases that is the reason they haven't issued a statewide shutdown. There are obviously a vast amount of counties in the state of Texas, but you're seeing on a county-by-county basis slowly the entire state will probably come to that kind of decision where the shelter-in-place order. Of course, some of the counties with more rural areas are not as prone to the spread, as a lot of those folks do keep to themselves as it is, and some of the more farming areas, some of the places where there's not a whole lot of interaction, as much interaction as there are in cities and urban areas.
And you just mentioned Governor Greg Abbott. He's now requesting that hospitals across the state submit a daily report on how many beds they have available, and healthcare providers must also submit daily reports on the tests, the coronavirus tests. So there's so many things that are happening, so many changing parts on a daily basis. New cases, of course, every single day. New shelter-in-place orders being issued across the state in different counties. So it's just a lot of moving parts. But today, I think the big thing we're looking at is we're expecting President Trump to sign that $2 trillion economic relief package.
Yeah, absolutely. A question now coming in from Frankie. How will they enforce the shelter in place? Many people and businesses are not compliant. It's a good question. So as far as we're told, this is a see something, say something policy. So complaints will be addressed on a case-by-case basis. So if you do see a business or people that are not complying with this, maybe people gathering out in the streets or people getting together in large places, it's imperative that you report it to your local authorities. Then they will be up for perhaps have consequences as much as a $1,000 fine, a Class C misdemeanor as well.
That is a good question. Yeah, I think it's really important that people understand that this is serious, that when these orders are in place, it is really, really important you do stay home and limit even going to the grocery store. I know we talked about it yesterday, but you're going to have to wait in line now if you want to go to H-E-B, and they're running out of stuff, and there's going to be limits on how many things you can buy. I know that was a big article online for us yesterday, but it's still on our website. It lists all the stuff that H-E-B is limiting you from buying. I know it's 2 milk cartons per family. There's so many different limits that they've now set just to make sure people are not hoarding and that everyone is getting something that they need.
Lori says she can't find the list. I think if you scroll up, we have in our comments, if you're asking about here's what's open and what's closed, it should be pinned in the comments in this thread right now. So if you want to scroll up, you'll be able to find that.
It's also on your screen right now. If you want to read that list, it's right there. And of course, we'll continue updating that online as well.
Bridget says, did I read McLennan County has its first recovered patient? Okay, I want to address this real quick, Bridget. It's a good question, and it's a question that we have gotten so many times. Why are we only reporting the cases, the new cases that are popping up, and not reporting the recovered cases? Well, here's the deal. The recovered cases are a little bit harder to monitor. Those numbers aren't as readily available. Of course, we do want to report those kinds of numbers, to inject some positivity into the narrative here. But right now, the number of cases popping up are being tracked far more closely than the number of people who are recovering.
Lynn weighing in. These parents need to understand the kids can't be outside playing amongst each other. I saw kids outside last night up until about 10:30 p.m. Sad but truth here in KCEN. Yeah, I think it's really important if you are going to let your kid go outside. Of course, we saw a beautiful day yesterday. We're going to see a beautiful day today here in Central Texas. That it's really important that you tell them to social distance. It's really important that they stay 6 feet away from each other. But we know that kids are tired of being indoors. I can see why some parents are letting their kids outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also important to sit down and explain to your kids how serious this is. We've all been kids before, potentially you're not taking it seriously. You don't really understand the full context of what's going on. So that is important to have that conversation.
Let's see. Ari is saying, can people travel together, or is it one person per car? Ari, I can tell you that if you're part of the same household, the same family, yeah, there's no restrictions on that right now. It would be hard to, of course, monitor that. So it is not one person per car right now. Sharon saying, why mine only play in the backyard with each other? Sharon, that's a good point. If you do have a backyard, maybe that's the best place to have your kids play so you can monitor them. But a lot of people don't have a backyard, so that could be the reason why some people are seeing some kids out and about playing with kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Heiss has commented, and Jim Heiss is actually our news director, so this is a reliable source, and he's going to give some context here. No one can be considered recovered in our area yet because it hasn't been long enough. So there cannot be an official recovery count until more time passes. Thank you, Jim, for helping clarify that, because that is a question that so many of you have been asking. We understand it. You want the positivity as well. It seems like a lot of doom and gloom every single day. So Jim has given us some context there, and he would know.
We're getting a lot of good questions this morning, and I'm glad that we're able to address them in real time. This is why we do Still Up with 6. We not only want to keep you informed on the number of cases here in Central Texas, the orders that are in place, but also answer any questions you may have. If you're asking how many cases, here are all the numbers listed right there on your screen. And of course, if you have a question you want Chris to verify, he's still verifying coronavirus claims every single morning just to make sure we are not spreading misinformation on the internet, because we know that that can easily spread. And we just want to spread the truth. There's all the information on how you can contact Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to remind people at home, I know I've gotten so many verify requests, and I love that. I encourage that because it cuts down on misinformation. If I haven't gotten to yours yet, I certainly will. I'm working through them day by day. Probably coming up here in the next couple of days, we'll start doing multiple verifies a day to get you the facts that you need at home. But just hang with me, bear with me. I haven't gotten to everyone so far. Yeah,
I can only imagine what your inbox looks like right now, because there are so many good questions out there. There are so many questions, and people want answers. And that's the thing. Whenever we're dealing with something like this, we here at 6 News want to make sure that you get facts, not fear. That is our message to everyone. But we also want to help promote the good things that are happening. Talk about some good. So we are launching something called Send the Love, where we want you guys to share any stories of people that you're seeing doing good in our community. All you have to do is message us on Facebook, post on our wall. You can even use the hashtag Send the Love. We still want to make sure that it's not all bad news every single day. There is lots of good news happening. So Send the Love is our hashtag, and that's how you can help us help share good stories.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still so much good right now in our community, guys, and I know that a lot of you get pretty down when you watch the news sometimes, or follow our website or our Facebook page. But we want to remind you that good people out there are still doing good things. There is so much positivity to spread. So send us the stories that you're seeing in your areas or hearing about. Of course, many of you are just like me, kind of hunkering down and haven't really left the house. But if you're hearing about things on social media, maybe you have a neighbor that's helping out, an elderly neighbor, we want to hear about it. We want to tell your stories and make sure that we all all stay positive through this as well.
Yeah, and if you aren't waking up early enough to watch Texas Today, we hope you can join us. We're on from 4:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's not just bad news and all coronavirus. Of course, we have fun music. We talk about the forecast and what's trending online and some good feel-good stories as well, and your birthday shout-outs. So we've got plenty to show you guys 4:30 to 7 a.m. every single morning on Texas Today.
Note is required, Ari, but I don't think it would hurt if you have a note from your employer. It certainly would clear up any confusion if you were not sheltering in place. So if you were to come across law enforcement or someone who was asking about why you weren't sheltering in place, a note from your employer certainly would be helpful.
And of course, you can always text the word coronavirus to 254-859-5481. And of course, it will send automatically an updated article with all the latest information on everything coronavirus. Well, that does it for us here on Still Up with 6.
I think that's good.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
You know what, Heidi? That is the magic here of the delay, right? We've got a little delay between our two studio setups, so we're going to talk over each other a little bit. There's going to be some technical difficulties, but we do appreciate you guys joining us here and bearing with us on Still Up with 6 as we all navigate this together. Remember, we'll be on tomorrow morning, same time, same place, 4:30 to 7 a.m., and we'll be keeping you updated on Still Up with 6 right after the show as well.
Everyone have a great Wednesday and stay inside.